Hi, welcome to the Math Together show where thoughtful educators gather and learn together. I'm Dr. Sue Looney.
I'm Molly Vokey.
And I'm Heidi Subnani. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're really excited to have you here with us. So this is our last show of 2020, and we have done 27 shows since we started in May, which is just so exciting for us. If you missed any of those great interviews or topics, please feel free to look at those in our Facebook group or on YouTube. And if you're a member of the Math Together community, you can check those out within that community. We have those links there and available for you. So 27 shows and moving on till next year.
Crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's so wild. Like a year ago, we didn't even think we were going to have a show, and now here we are.
No, we didn't, and we've had such amazing guests. I mean, I just feel so honored from the people that came on. So,
and it's been great to have them share and be able to hear from so many different people. And in 2021, we are going to be moving to Wednesdays. So same time, but different day on Wednesdays.
And super exciting news coming up in January. We are going to be having 10 days of giveaways starting on January 6th. And we're super excited about this. We're going to be opening our doors to Math Together. They've been closed for a few months. And so in honor of reopening, we are going to be giving away lots of stuff. So stay tuned either by our newsletter, through Twitter, through Facebook. We'll be having all kinds of giveaways, and we're so excited about it.
Yeah, I'm going to feel a little bit like Oprah and Ellen, like the 10 days of giveaways. But you can find out also if you're on our mailing list, and it's super easy to get on that mailing list, and you just text Looney to 22828, and if you do that, you'll be prompted on how to get on that mailing list, and we'll let you know. And the freebies are like no obligation, like it's literally something we are super excited about to just sort of give back and then create some enthusiasm as we like rip off the page of 2020. Thank you very much.
Bye.
We have to start 2021 on a high note.
We do. And so we're also here just in general, what we do is we support teachers, school districts, small schools, large schools, all kinds of settings, in improving math instruction. We come in to we don't come in physically these days, but we work with you to improve, and we get to know you and we partner with you. So if you're interested in that or any of the free resources, you can check out our website. And we should say hello in the comments. If you're here, we'd like to know. We're hoping this is a bit interactive, either live or on the replay. So anything else before we dig in? Did I forget anything? Or
I think we have it all, but yes, we're happy if you are here, and we would love to hear from you and where you're watching us from. And like Sue was saying, we have a bit of a different show today, and we would love to hear your comments as we go.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to talk about kindness, and we think this is more important than ever. And we're going to do a format where we pose a question and we each weigh in on it. And we are hoping some people will weigh in on the comments as well. But to get us started and thinking about kindness in general, before we pop into this main question, we're going to share a video clip. And so it's only about a minute and a half of what is kindness from an organization called kindness.org. And so I'm going to share my screen and get that going for us. And that's going to set the tone.
Kindness is just one of those words. I don't know. Kindness is kindness.
Kindness is connection. Powerful. Intelligence. Nurturing.
Performance. Happiness.
Selfless.
Easy.
Fun. The choice.
Accessible.
Together. Kindness is universal. Kindness is helping someone else feel heard.
To honor and acknowledge and celebrate somebody. Recognizing other people. The decision to put someone else before yourself.
Actually try to understand what is going on in someone else's life.
Something that's what keeps in your heart. Kindness. Living openly.
It is a way to build trust between two people.
Positive difference. Being courageous. Contagious, basically.
Kindness is doing unto others as you would want done unto you.
Kindness is something that is part of your daily life.
Choosing to look at somebody instead of looking away.
That there's safety for whoever you're with to be vulnerable.
So that we can learn about each other's stories. Experiencing life with other living beings.
Giving up your time for somebody else.
Like, hey, like I care about you.
Respecting how everyone's feeling.
And being gracious to others.
But also caring for yourself.
Kindness is inspiring and motivating. It makes everybody feel better. I know you feel better when you're kind to somebody. Don't lie.
All right, so talking about kindness on a show about math, right? So I want us to start there, though, establishing like a definition around kindness. So Molly and Heidi, or anyone that's joining us, what was there a part of that video that resonated with you? Was there anything that one person said that you wanted to comment on?
Yeah, I mean, so many of them actually. But the one that resonated with me the most was when someone said that when you put someone else before yourself. And I think that happens in small ways and in big ways. And I think that people can do this, anyone can do the small ways. Maybe everyone doesn't feel that they can do the big ways, but everyone can do the small ways. And that I like to see happening.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Heidi.
No, I was going to say two of the words that kind of jumped out at me were decision and choice. So we choose or decide to act in kindness. And so we're at times making a conscious decision, like that we may feel that kindness towards someone else is not deserved in that moment because they're being a jerk or whatever it happens to be. But that we're responding. So I think we often look at kindness as something that we receive, but it's also a gift to ourselves in that moment because we're making a decision to react or to not react in the same manner as someone else who is there and maybe treating us in a way that is less than kind.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting, and that connects a little bit to what you were saying too, Molly, about our choice of how to respond in big ways or small ways. I kind of latched on to the person who talked about kindness as being allowing someone else to be vulnerable when they're in your space, and it made me think of teaching in the math classroom, because when we challenge students with rigorous problems and we ask them to share their thinking, we're asking them to be vulnerable, and if they don't feel a kindness coming from the class, from each other, from their teacher. So that was the one that resonated with me, this idea of it's okay to be vulnerable around me. It's okay. I'm going to respond in kindness.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, though, I feel like having watched this snippet of lots and lots of stuff being said in 1 minute and 30 seconds, it just feels to me like the interpretation of kindness is so broad. And kindness is enormous for such a small word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wonder if it is often misused as well. So I think about how sometimes we make that choice to respond in kindness where we may not feel it's warranted, but it doesn't mean kindness is not letting someone walk over you. Kindness is also not letting someone take advantage of you or infringe on your personal boundaries, emotional or physical boundaries. And so I think it can also get a bad name in that sense of like, oh, well, you're not being kind, from a person who is trying to manipulate or trying to. And so sometimes when we think about this idea of kindness, it's like, okay, no, that's not what we're saying here. We're looking specifically at the act of giving and receiving, and it's a two-way street. So it's not, you're not continuing to be kind to someone. You're not continuing to allow someone to take advantage of. And so, but you've created a space for yourself and for those around you that that is safe. And so we have to think about, okay, like what there are times where it's not a safe relationship or it's not a safe environment. And so it's kind to yourself at that point to take a step back and say, no, this is not a space, a relationship, an environment that I need to be in order to remain true to myself and have kindness towards myself.
So picking up on that choice, that it's a decision and a choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think kindness to oneself is actually more difficult for some people than it is to be kind to others. And in particular, in situations, Heidi, where there is unkindness happening, you know, some people are not well practiced in being kind to themselves. So this is a time more than ever where we need to be talking about it.
We do. So finishing this sentence, I wanted to finish it so many different ways, and I agree with you, Molly, that it's a really big word, and sometimes I like to really think about language and all the various ways to define. But I landed on listening. Kindness is listening and really listening, and I want to carry that theme through as we talk about how this pertains to mathematics. Before I pull up the next question, was there anything else that you wanted to fill in the blank with that we haven't talked about?
I feel like for me, kindness is about respecting all. And that is a little bit reflective of what you were talking about, Heidi, like, you know, being kind in the face of unkindness is sometimes seen as being, you know, being taken advantage of, but really you're in control of that situation. Like you said, it's your choice to still be kind. Anyway.
Okay.
And so I have been kind of thinking about it in the way that kindness is a strength. So it is not, I think in our world right now, the idea of the loudest, most forceful person in a situation, that's where the right is, or that's where, like, if I use the strength of my personality, but that's not what strength is. So in order for kindness to be a strength, that being kind is not a detriment, and it is not a weakness. It's a strength.
I love it.
Me too.
Well, let's make our connection over to math and how this specifically plays into that.
Yeah. So I don't think that often people, particularly adults, think of math and kindness as being in the same sentence. And we hope that more children today think of math and kindness in the same sentence. But what is kindness in math? How can we know when there is kindness in math or even in the math classroom? And what could some examples be that would show that there's kindness in math? What do you think, ladies?
My favorite.
Go ahead, Sue.
My favorite example that came to mind, and there actually were many, is from a kindergarten classroom. And I still really love the poster in the poem that says, "Everything I ever needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten," because I feel like it proves itself over and over again. So we teach children this routine called turn and talk, which is powerful and really interesting, but we don't teach the other side of that coin, which is, I've heard, is look, lean, and listen. And when I say that, often people are like, oh, there's look, lean, and listen. I'm like, yes, like we tell people to talk, but we need to be encouraging the listening if we really want to build a community of a common shared understanding of mathematics. So you can talk all you want, but if no one's listening and you're just waiting to be called on, then we're not creating community. So to that end, a shout out to Mrs. McHugh and her kindergarten class, who was gracious enough to have me in many, many times. And I was working with some students, and we were doing a same but different conversation. And we had them turn and talk and listen. And then when I asked people to share, a little boy came up and said, well, what my partner noticed was, and it was so amazing. And then student after student had learned that that's what you do during share. It's your share is not about necessarily sharing what you just said. It's sharing what you just heard. But it was so powerful because they weren't prompted like, I'm going to call on someone to tell me what your partner said.
Mm-hmm,
they had understood the power of listening. And it was really neat. It was, and then like kindergarteners will do, they just all got in line and shared the same way. Yeah, it was super. It was really nice.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. That is kindness,
mm-hmm.
right?
So I've been looking at, as the two ladies on this conversation know, I have been like up to my eyeballs in research in math anxiety, which is like the opposite of kindness. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I think there was an experience that came to light is like our roles in as educators and sometimes creating that anxiety, and then the reverse of that, like how do we undo that, and how do we as educators provide space and opportunity and reinforce for students that their thinking is valuable and is like correct in some cases, or that there is learning happening there. And so that was one of the examples that really stuck out to me this week is having this conversation of a teacher stopping and saying, I'm reminding my students to trust their own mathematical instincts, trust their own mathematical curiosity, in that it's okay not to have the answer right now, but that in this environment, we're going to honor those questions and you're learning to that understanding. So it was about and trusting that. And so I think that was such a huge piece for me to kind of think about and reflect on. I was like, okay, so what opportunities do I provide for the teachers I work with? What opportunities do my teachers provide for students where we're trusting in their mathematical curiosity, and then we're honoring that? And I see that as being a kindness. So we're looking at and we're fostering that understanding of a subject that is often maligned, but sometimes for all the reasons, because we have not provided that opportunity in the past. So how do we continue that and provide those opportunities? I think is just so critical in this space.
Yeah, mine is actually reflective of that, Heidi. I was in a first grade class in one of my districts, and teacher was doing a number talk, and we were pretty far into the number talk where, students may have had one answer and may have already changed their mind. And so at one point, the teacher said, asked one student who had a different answer and said, what are you thinking now? And the student was like kind of uncomfortable. And the teacher said, do you want to change your mind? You have more information now, so it's okay for you to change your mind. And the idea of having new information allowing you to make a change in your original stance is freedom. right? I mean, some people really kind of stick in the, this was my answer. And I mean, we all know people like this, right? So that I thought was a bit of grace and kindness. And that doesn't only send a message just to that one student, but to every student. You can change your mind when you get new information.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about, I had been thinking about the talk moves coming into this discussion, but now I'm thinking, based on what the two of you said, though, I'm thinking about the standards for math practice. So when we construct viable arguments and we critique the reasoning of others, and we open up the space in a way that says your ideas matter, it's almost like there's opportunities for kindness embedded in our standards for math practice. And that was really cool to listen to, because I hadn't thought about that.
It's actually dictating kindness in mathematics. These are what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Well, and it's that idea that we persevere in it, so we continue and we go back to. So it's not one done, you answered and it was wrong or right, and I'm giving you, a grade or a mark, or I've evaluated your understanding. No, it's that idea that I'm providing opportunity for you to persevere in this, and that space to continually question and gain new understanding.
Right, because you don't persevere if you've gotten it right every time. You don't need to. Right. I mean, and you don't persevere if you got it wrong and you're all upset. You just stop.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That reminds me, there was a quote I read this week in preparing for this by Charles Glassman that said, kindness begins with understanding we all struggle. So that idea of, okay, like that's going to be part of this. So that I'm going to struggle, that you're going to struggle, that everybody at one point is going to struggle, and recognizing that and admitting it is a kindness as well.
And so growth mindset messages, right? But, I also want to talk about the domain of mathematics, which when we've shared our stories before, I actually have always loved mathematics. And I've always had this nice relationship with the subject of mathematics. I found it a very kind and playful space. It was a space where I was free to roam and wonder and create, and yet there was a safety in, we are arriving at an answer, but we can meander and we can debate. And so there's something about the subject matter when you say that, Heidi, that quote about we can expect struggle. Was that what it was? Mm-hmm. That's what math is. We're solving problems, so we're all going to struggle in this, and that's what we're supposed to do. So we would love to hear from more of you about this, and it would be really cool, especially we could do this in our Math Together learning community, but also in the Facebook group. There's a group for joyful math educators to keep talking about connections from things that we're already doing and looking through the lens of kindness, like talk moves, growth mindset, standards for math practice. That was cool. That emerged live for all of you. We purposefully did not discuss ahead of time so we could have some live aha moments. Let's move on to kind. We alluded to earlier. Being kind to ourselves.
Yeah. So I'm going to actually read a quote to go along with this. And so the quote says, kindness also relates to resilience, feeling like you can face challenges, cope, and even strive in times of crisis. This comes down to a self-belief and being kind enough to yourself to believe that you will find a way to get past obstacles, even if you don't have the answers right now. Kinder attitudes will also give us a space to focus on strengths rather than where we feel we may be going wrong. And so in thinking about that within being kind to ourselves and with the colleagues that we work with, I am just reminded every day since we have started this crazy roller coaster in March that we have to continually remind ourselves and those that we work with to be kind to ourselves. And sometimes we're better at reminding colleagues to do that, and we're not very good listeners on our own to our own advice around this. But I think, I think we should talk about what are some ways that we can be kind to ourselves and remind colleagues to do that in this space and in the time that we are currently in.
That quote, Heidi, reminded me so much of quarantine in March through June, or whatever the official quarantine before things started opening up again here in Massachusetts. I remember that when I would go places, people were kinder. You couldn't go very many places, so you might be seeing people out for a walk or at the grocery store, but I just remember feeling like, you didn't see very many people. So when you saw people, you really wanted to have that human connection. You wanted to be kind. And I just remember that feeling like, this is lovely. Like I wanted to be like this all the time.
Right.
And since then, not so much.
Well, especially as a New Englander, we're not always the most patient and kind. This is
we may have a reputation.
We might. But it just reminded me of that. And, that's not so much about necessarily being kind to ourselves, but my reaction to that is kindness towards me makes me feel so good, but also being able to be kind to somebody else. And somebody said that in the video is also, feeding the soul, so to speak. I definitely feel better about myself when I've been kind to somebody, and in particular, when I haven't expected to be kind for some reason. Definitely gives me a little kick in my step, I would think.
Mm-hmm. I pasted the quote in the comments, and I also had earlier pasted my blog, which will give the citation where that's from. So if people want to reread that, what I honed in on was they said to focus, when we focus on our strengths, then we're kinder to ourselves. And I think there are days when so much is going wrong that it's easy to just think about, how am I going to fix all the things that are wrong? And then maybe to land in that place, which is like despair. So if we focus on our strengths, that's a way of being kind to ourselves. And so there's this idea I've been playing with about what is within, and I saw a visual, and I guess I forget where, but it was a little person in the middle, and it's sphere of control. And that's what's around me. And then there's a larger sphere around that, and I can't control that one. So in kindness to myself, I want to get clarity on what is in my control and what is not. And I can acknowledge and let that, feel what I need to feel about what I can't control. But then I want to pivot back to my place of strength. And I was even thinking this would be an amazing journal activity. And I think students would find it empowering as well, to just sort of like, what can I control and what can't I control? What is in your sphere of control? So for example, I can choose to put on that Peloton app and do my workout today, and it will make me feel better. And that's in my control. And I know there's a direct correlation to how I feel if I just do even 15 minutes, It's not in my control if this broadcast cuts out again this week, right? I can't control that. So we laugh after. We hope you do too, so.
I laughed.
So that's what I pull out of being kind. That was the biggest thing I took from that. And I hadn't thought about that. It's kind for me to operate from a place of strength and remind myself of that, so that I can focus on those things that I can control. And as far as reminding others, just by sharing that message, saying I had a really tough day. And when I do this, it makes me feel better. Those were kind of my contributions to that.
But
how about you,
Heidi? Can I just comment on what you said, Sue? Is like, I feel like your example of the Peloton thing is something, in normal circumstances when we're allowed to be together, being inviting somebody, let's go for a walk. I need it. You probably need it. Let's go for a walk. And that always changes my whole demeanor, everything.
Everything.
And that's pretty simple. Pretty simple. I used to know some colleagues when I was teaching who used to walk at lunch. And you know how long lunch is in a middle school. 23 minutes maybe. Yeah, exactly. But they would put on their coats and go out for a walk. They didn't go far, but they did it. I just feel like those are some ways. I've been in many schools where I've seen that teachers are, they've arranged to have somebody come in and teach a class after school where they're doing yoga or Pilates or, whatever. And I just feel like those are akin to what you are talking about, Sue. That works for you. Lots of times that kind of thing works for other people, but you can certainly do that together.
Mm-hmm. And knowing like the power of a good nap, man.
That's right up your alley.
I think there are times.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. So as these ladies know, I started this in early pandemic where I called my bed the bed office because it was just hard sometimes. And I was like, I'm going to be in the bed office because I need a moment. And everyone's in the house all the time and all the spaces and all of the spaces. And so it is like I've gotten to the point where I just like, okay, like I'm calling you from the nest, like just sitting here for a moment.
The nest.
Yes. Like making my little cave and my covers, and just sometimes there are so many things to do, right? The list is so long. And it's going to remain long sometimes. Like it's okay for it to remain long. And like, I've gotten to that point where I just have to step back and say, okay, like that's okay. That's okay that's not going to happen today. And I'm going to put a pause on that, and it's okay. And so I think there's so many things that we all strive for in our classrooms. We want all of our students to come all of the time and to be engaged, and we want to meet their needs all of the time and not allow ourselves bad days. And having that, like, you know what? That did not work.
No.
Like that lesson, that strategy, that whatever it was, that did not work. Mm-hmm. We will try again tomorrow. Like we're going to put a pause in that and we're going to try it again tomorrow. And knowing that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't feel that way. I think sometimes when we're streaming into people's houses where we're, trying to juggle in person and not in person and all of those things, sometimes it's okay to just hit a pause.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and the quote references resilience, the connection between kindness and resilience. And so I think that all of us and our students are really building resilience in a way that is going to serve us greatly in the future. But for now, this moment out tonight to take a break from content specifically or some other things to focus on kindness. We hope that was a little act of kindness for all of you to take with you and carry forward, and make sure to take care of yourselves and remind someone else to take care of themselves in whether it's a nap or it's the Peloton or a walk or a glass of wine or a snuggle on the couch, whatever it is, right? Or, all those things. Anything else before we close? It's been a great discussion.
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah. So, well, thank you everybody for not just, tuning in today and for this show, but for tuning in ever, for supporting us as we go through. We've had thousands of views on the shows across the months, and all of our guests are amazing. So thank you to them and those that are coming up that are saying yes. So a huge thank you to everybody.
Yes. So we are really excited about some of our guests that are coming up. Well, excited about all of them, but we're really excited to be putting together a new slate of guests for the show that we will be advertisements and will be coming out shortly to kind of get you excited about these guests as we are. And remember too, we have so many wonderful mathematicians and educators who have come on in the past. So you can always catch up on one that you may not have been able to watch live or that you have missed as we have continued to move forward with new ones each week. So many fantastic people have just really shared their gifts and their talents with us and with you, and we really appreciate that. So be looking for that information coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, and speaking of that, kindness to yourself is taking a minute to watch a show that you might like to watch. And I hope that it would be this one. But what we have coming is our 10 days of giveaways, which we're so super excited about. We have lots of things to give away, both virtual and in-hand type stuff. So please follow and along with our Twitter, our Facebook, our newsletter, so that you can be in tune with what's happening. If you'd like to get on our mailing list, you can text Looney to the numbers 22828, and that will get you right on the mailing list. And then you'll know everything that's going on so that you can register every day to win something super fun.
Yay.
Oh, and we're going to be opening up our doors to Math Together starting in January 6th. And so we hope that you would like to join us in the Math Together community where we support one another in learning to teach math better for our students.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you in 2021. Our next show will be on Wednesday, January 6th with our super special opening guest. Remember to always be curious and always be kind. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year.
Bye.